1895, Samuel worked in the records office in Washington. His job was narrow and exact. He copied approved documents, stamped them, and filed them so they could be retrieved later. He did not write policy. He did not debate it. His responsibility was continuity. One morning, a memorandum arrived concerning a border dispute between Venezuela and British Guyana. The decision had already been made before it reached his desk. The response cited an old presidential statement from 1823 warning European powers against interference in the Western Hemisphere. Samuel copied the paragraph exactly as written and filed it under the category already assigned to similar correspondence. The dispute ended quickly. Britain accepted arbitration. Newspapers described the outcome as firm but restrained. Inside the office, the case was marked resolved. The language used in the response was not withdrawn or retired. It remained part of the active record. Several months later, another memo arrived. It involved a different country but raised a related concern. In the drafting office, a junior official noted that the situation was not identical and asked whether new wording might be required. The paper was sent upward for review. It returned with a short, handwritten note in the margin: use existing doctrine. Samuel copied the same paragraph again. Following standard filing practice, Samuel added a cross reference linking the new case to the earlier one. This was routine. Cross references helped senior staff retrieve previously approved language quickly. They required no special permission and were rarely questioned. By the early 1900s, Samuel no longer needed instruction to know where such documents belonged. When a situation involved European creditors, unrest near shipping routes, or disputes close to American territory, the same category applied. Documents filed there moved faster through review. Drafts that described actions as exceptions often returned marked with edits. The exception language was removed. The familiar wording remained. Samuel copied what was approved and filed it accordingly. In 1904, new files appeared involving Caribbean states facing debt crises and internal violence. The approved responses authorized landings to restore order. Each document emphasized that the action was temporary and limited. Samuel noticed that these assurances appeared in every case. As part of his duties, he filed the documents together and linked them to the earlier correspondence that used the same justification. When one occupation ended, another followed. Each one was recorded as separate. Each cited the same authority. Ending the sequence would have required a formal instruction to close the category. No such instruction arrived. Years passed. Filing cabinets filled. At one point, Samuel was asked to reorganize part of the archive to improve retrieval speed. He grouped materials by theme rather than by country. This made similarities across cases visible. The change was reversed. He was told to return to chronological order. Chronology made individual cases easier to locate without drawing attention to repetition. The system functioned smoothly. Requests were answered quickly. Familiar language reduced review time. Efficiency became an internal standard. During the First World War, attention shifted to Europe. New cabinets were installed. Old ones were pushed aside, but not emptied. The labels remained unchanged. After the war, when questions returned to the hemisphere, the earlier files were retrieved. The language they contained had already been approved in the past. It did not require new justification. Samuel retired soon after. His replacement inherited the filing system as it stood. No explanation accompanied it. The categories were simply there. In the 1930s, a new administration promised restraint. Troops were withdrawn. Agreements replaced occupations. New memos emphasized cooperation and mutual respect. They were filed under the same heading used for earlier hemispheric intervention. When a clerk asked whether the older doctrine still applied, the answer was careful. It is not being used at the moment. No instruction was given to close the files. They remained active. After the Second World War, urgency returned. This time the concern was ideological influence rather than European power. A cable asked whether earlier authority used to block outside empires could also be used to counter this new threat. Senior staff retrieved older correspondence and reused its structure. References to European monarchies were replaced with references to foreign ideology. The underlying claim stayed the same. The clerk copied the revised wording and filed it alongside the earlier cases. Early results were described as successful. Governments light, crises were contained. From Washington, this appeared as stability. The system seemed to deliver results quickly. Over time, the standard response hardened. When unrest occurred, choosing not to act required explanation. Acting did not. The burden shifted quietly. No announcement marked the change. It emerged through repeated use. By the 1970s, internal reviews reopened old files and compared cases across decades. The same language appeared again and again, used to justify very different actions. Quietly, officials asked how this authority was still being claimed, how far it had stretched, and what would happen if it were formally re examined. In public, they spoke cautiously about the doctrine, but they did not replace it with a new framework. The files remained in circulation. In the early 21st century, the language returned openly. Officials referred to it by name now, the Monroe Doctrine, and reused its later extensions, including what had once been called the Roosevelt Corollary. The wording was shorter and less cautious than before. It asserted authority rather than promising order. Actions followed that logic. Each cited precedent. Each relied on assumption that this region operated under different rules. Ending that assumption would have required acknowledging that it had been sustained by habit as much as necessity. Resistance increased. Other governments objected. Public support declined, but the system persisted. Too many statements had been issued, too many actions defended. Continuing required no admission. Stopping would have required explaining why the past no longer applied. What began as a warning became a reusable template. The template became routine. Routine became obligation. No single person designed this outcome. It was formed because reusing familiar language was easier than reconsidering it, and because filing systems remember decisions long after the people who made them are gone. What happens to a system when it keeps solving the same problem in the same way, even after the problem has changed? When does maintaining consistency turn into a constraint?